Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It's so good to be back. It is so good to see everybody. How are you doing today, everyone? We've got some hot, spicy topics to talk about today. Some really good stuff. So it's so great to see everyone here. What can we talk about today? Well, there's going to be a few things, right? First of all, obviously the biggest news story right now hitting this week, the one that's driving all the headlines, the one that's so freaking crazy, is Elden Ring has sold over 12 million units already. That's right, you did not mishear me. It is at already over 12 million copies. A couple things to point out about that, about what's so staggering about it. Let me give you a couple data points here because it's insane. First of all, this is now already the fastest selling third-party Japanese game ever. Think about that. Think about how long this industry's been going, how many amazing giant games have come out of Japan. This is number one. This is the fastest selling game out of Japan ever for a third party. That is shocking. Now, it's not the fastest selling of any Japanese game. Right now, Nintendo still holds that record with Animal Crossing New Horizons, right? But that's a first-party game. So out of any third-party game ever released, Elden Ring, the fastest selling ever. That is incredible. It's one of the biggest RPG launches of all time, right? Not number one, but it is right up there with the biggest ever. It's right up there with the Cyberpunks and the Fallout 4s, right? Those are actually a little bit bigger, but this is right up there with them, right? So it's incredible to be in that sort of company considering the game it is. So amazing results there for Elden Ring. This thing is going to be gigantic. Another thing we can talk about is we just found out that Xbox Series consoles in the month of February outsold PlayStation 5 for the first time ever in Europe. So since these consoles came out, no month has the Xbox Series outsold PlayStation 5 as a whole in Europe. Now, it has happened specifically in the UK. We have seen Xbox Series outsell PlayStation 5 before, but this has never happened across Europe. So pretty crazy. Obviously, shortages are playing a huge part there, but we can talk about what it means for Xbox being able to get a foothold in Europe, and what Sony can do to try to improve their inventory levels. So we can talk about that. There's a big state of play today for Hogwarts Legacy, driving crazy hype, crazy numbers online on social media metrics. We can talk about that and so much more. So if this is your first time ever as part of my live chat, basically the way it works, it's a show, it's a stream, it's completely driven by you, your comments, your questions. We break down the latest and biggest news in the video game industry here every single week. There's going to be two ways to do that. First of all, of course, there's the free method. You just type a question, pops into chat. I get to as many free questions as I possibly can. If you want to guarantee that I get to your question, the way to do that is going to be the super chat option. Just type a donation in the super chat of whatever you want. It alerts me and I get to super chats as quickly as possible. Guarantees I get to your question. A lot of the time I can't get to every single free question during these chats, but don't feel pressured, don't feel obligated to donate in chat. It's just a way to guarantee that I get to your question and to help support me and the channel. All right. I think that's it. No real housekeeping notes off the top that I can think of. We're going to go for about an hour and 15 to an hour and 20 minutes today. I think we're good to go, and chat is already filling up. So let's get rocking. Start dropping those questions into chat, everybody. All right, first one here is going to be from Plastic Hearts Podcast with the $4.99. Thank you so much, Plastic Hearts Podcast. Always, every single week, so supportive. Benji Boy, will Sony announce acquiring WB at the State of Play as rumors suggest? Okay, so this is something that's actually being misreported, and it actually caught me as well whenever I saw this online. I was like, oh wow, that quote does sound weird. Are we going to see a WB acquisition? But this is actually being misreported. So let me explain what's happening here, why this is getting all this traction online. So in the PlayStation blog post where they announced, that there was going to be this Hogwarts Legacy State of Play today, there's a quote here that people are really taking out of context. And like I said, I actually fell for it at first too until someone corrected me. And I was like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. So in the PlayStation blog post, it says at the very end of it, This is an incredible moment that we've been building towards for a long time. We can't wait to show you what we've been working on. And a lot of people are, and right before that it says there will be a special post that will add a little more context to what we're about to show you. So a lot of people are reading that and they're thinking, oh, this is Sony saying, wow, if Sony's saying this, look at that wording. We've been building towards this for a long time. It's an incredible moment. Why would Sony be saying that about a third-party game? Well, they're not. They're actually not. This isn't Sony who wrote this blog post. So this blog post was written by Chandler Wood, who is the community manager at WB Games Avalanche. So what this is saying is it's WB Games, it's Avalanche saying we've been building towards this moment for a long time, which makes a lot more sense because they have been building towards this for a long time, right? This game's been in development for years and we still haven't really seen much on it. So unfortunately, I hate to break the news to people that are expecting a WB Games acquisition today from Sony. I'm not going to tell you it's not going to happen, but that blog post actually has zero evidence and it's not hinting towards that at all, because it's Avalanche Games saying that. It's the community manager saying, we've been building towards this for a long time. We can't wait to show you Harry Potter. So I get why a lot of people are falling for that, because like I said, I did too the very first time I read it. I was like, why would Sony say we've been building towards this for so long for a third-party game? But it's not. So hate to break that to you. Again, that doesn't mean that a WB Games acquisition couldn't get announced. Who knows? But that's not what the blog post is saying or hinting at all. Thank you for that super chat, Plastic Hearts. We got a super chat here from Timmer with a $5. Benji, do you think ET counts as a quadruple A game? They spent $21 million just on the licensing rights, plus sales expectations for Ghostwire Tokyo. You know, at the time, it probably was pretty much like a quadruple A game, right? For how expensive that was for the time. And if you remember, I believe that's one of the games that caused like the big gaming crash back then, right? Isn't this the one that they buried tons of copies in the desert and stuff because it was like such a catastrophe? Yeah, I mean, for the time, that budget would have been astronomical, yeah. So you probably could, whenever you factor in, you know, inflation for what that would have cost back then, it might have been considered like what we think of as a quadruple A game nowadays, very potentially. Now, sales expectations for Ghostwire Tokyo, you know, I talked about this a bit on the last live chat. I'm not expecting this to do super well, and I hope it does, right? I hope this game is a huge success. I hope it sells a ton of freaking units. I'm always rooting for essentially every game to sell well. I mean, maybe if there was some really weird scenario, but I almost never root for a game to do bad. I want them all to sell a ton of copies. But the reality is we've talked about it on this chat before, a lot of Bethesda games don't sell a ton of units, right? That doesn't mean that they're not all profitable or that they're not all making some money, but outside of the really big Bethesda Studios games, right? The ones from Bethesda Game Studios themselves, they haven't had a whole lot of mega hits, right? It's really Fallout and Elder Scrolls that sell a ton for them, and Doom, right? Which is id. That's really their big three. It's Doom, Fallout, and Elder Scrolls. Once you get below that, there's a huge drop off in sales, right? Again, that doesn't mean that those games aren't profitable. It's just, you know, Doom, Elder Scrolls, and Fallout are way up here, and then everything else takes a huge drop down. Whenever you look at like Wolfenstein 2 sales, when you look at the Evil Within 2 sales, whenever you look at, you know, Dishonored 2 sales, I could go down the list, right? It's a huge drop off. So I think this would definitely be a success if it can perform anywhere like Deathloop did. I don't even know that it'll be able to hit Deathloop numbers, but I hope it does. Deathloop didn't set the charts on fire either. So it'll be a bummer if this can't even match Deathloop. I'm hoping that it can, but Timmer, I'll be honest, my expectations are not very high in terms of sales. I'm really stoked for it. Sorry, I have a hair on my head. It's driving me crazy. I'm really excited for it. I hope it does well, but I'm not expecting a lot. Not expecting a lot. And then Timmer had one more super chat here with a 5. Thank you so much, Timmer. VG Chart said they're trying to implement my data to use on their website, which I honestly did not expect. Makes sense. You bring up a lot of historical data, so that's awesome. Congrats, Timmer. Thoughts on Amazon buying MGM? It's huge, right? You know, we talk about this all the time. People ask me about monopolies in the gaming industry, and I say all the time, we're nowhere close, right? The movie industry is way closer. It's not even close. Like, if you look at the consolidation in the video game industry and you compare that to the movie and film and TV industry, dude, they are way closer to monopoly over there. With Disney buying Fox, Amazon buying MGM, like the amount of consolidation that's in the film industry is crazy. There is now truly only a couple big players left. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not smaller ones that can still, you know, be successful and do well, right? I'm not calling the movie and film industry a complete monopoly, because you do have smaller distributors in there like A24 and stuff, right? Like, they exist. But when you're talking about the big players, the people that make the blockbusters, I mean, we're talking it's a handful now, right? It's essentially Disney, like Universal, Sony. You're getting low, right? You got Amazon in there now being a player. It ain't many. It ain't many. We're talking it's a handful. Whereas gaming, you know, there's definitely still consolidation going on, but you have multiple big third-party publishers still. You still have EA. You still have Take-Two. You still have Ubisoft. You still have a bunch more I could name, right? You still have even tons and tons and tons of independent developers and tons of new studios starting, right? Plus, on top of that, you have the three platform holders, right? You've got Sony, you got Microsoft, you got Nintendo. Like, there's still a lot of consolidation that could happen in the gaming industry before you're even close to where movies are, right? I'm not going to say that that's great or that it should happen, but yeah, movies, TV, film, that's way closer to consolidation and monopolies than gaming industry is. So overall, I mean, I get why Amazon's doing it. They're trying to bolster and grow their streaming service, right? Amazon Prime, they want that to become huge. They're spending a ton of money on stuff like Lord of the Rings and God of War coming up now, we're finding out. So, I mean, it makes sense for Amazon. Yeah, it does. Huge deal, though. Huge. Brock here with the 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Brock. Look at how poorly Elden Ring performed in sales. We were so right. Single player games are definitely dead. Sincerely, EA. Yeah, right. Elden Ring is I made a tweet about this and I was like, it's pretty amazing that a game as hardcore as Elden Ring is, because it is. It's a pretty hardcore game, right? Is now one of the fastest selling games of all time, right? It's not the fastest selling game of all time, but it's like one of. It really is. Like, 12 million this quick puts it into that upper echelon pantheon of fastest selling games. Like we said, fastest third-party game ever from Japan. It's pretty crazy that a game as hardcore as that, which is single-player focused. Of course, Elden Ring does have a multiplayer component, but the main pull of Elden Ring is the single-player experience. For it to do this gigantic is incredible. And one thing, Brock, is that EA really learned a lot from the success of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. That was a game that really woke EA up, that single-player games can still be huge. Internally, they outright were telling, like, there was discussions internally at EA that were saying that. And I believe they even made some public-facing comments about that because people forget Jedi Fallen Order was gigantic as well. Single player games can still absolutely be huge. Now, they need to be really good. They need to have a great hook. But the idea that single player games are dead or dying, I mean, that's ridiculous, right? I would say the thing that's still at most risk in terms of single player games are dead are like shorter games, right? If you're full priced and you're like a 10-hour game, that market, it's not dead, but that market is pretty risky. Like, look at the main thing of Elden Ring, right? It's a gigantic open world game, like, and it's got so much content. So the thing that is way riskier nowadays, not single player games, but like those shorter experiences that are single player, that is a bit risky in today's market, to be honest with you. If you make a single player game, it needs to be pretty beefy, right? I'm not saying it's got to be a 100-hour RPG, but I think you need to have at least 20 to 30 hours of gameplay in most single player games nowadays, or else it is a bit of a struggle to sell. All right, thank you so much, Brock, for that super chat. Joseki here with the super chat. A 2. Japanese devs surging. Monster Hunter set records. Now Elden Ring plus Nintendo. Yeah, there's tons of success coming out of Japan right now, right? Tons and tons and tons. What a turnaround this is from the 360 and PS3 generation. A lot of people forget that a lot of the third-party publishers really struggled, especially early on during that generation, as like things switched over to HD development. Whether you're looking at like Square Enix or even Capcom, a lot of these companies, they might have had like some successes, but there was like a lot of struggle coming out of these third-party Japanese companies. And then we also saw Nintendo, really take a huge hit with Wii U, right? So there was that chunk. Wii was massively successful, but you had that chunk of time there where right during the 360 PS3 generation, then moving into what happened with Wii U, things started to improve during PS4 and Xbox One generation. You started to see Capcom revving up and Square Enix, and then you had Nintendo, come out with the Switch a bit deeper into that generation. And now, right now, yeah, you're seeing tons of success. Now, it's not completely solved, right? We've talked on this chat about how Square Enix is still having some major issues. They have some huge successes, but then some huge misses as well. But as a whole, it does feel like, yeah, Japanese devs are really moving in the right direction. In fact, Capcom, in my opinion, is like one of the third-party publishers, period, in the entire industry with the most upside. Even when you're looking at companies like EA or Take-Two or all these, like the trajectory Capcom's on, fantastic, right? So yeah, there's tons of success, and Nintendo is just on fire. It's like ridiculous. Whether it's hardware sales or software sales, anything, Nintendo is just on fire. Benji here with the 5 super chat. What is up, Benji? Hi, Benji. What the hell is going on with the initiative? Oh, this is going to be spicy. Is Perfect Dark in peril? All right, let's talk about Perfect Dark and the initiative. This is funny. I was in a Discord, and I don't post much on Discords. I just have like one really small Discord that I'm in. That's just with a few friends. And it is so funny because I had posted in Discord the day before this story came out. And I literally had posted in the Discord, man, what's going on with Perfect Dark? The turnover rate at the initiative is super high, because I knew it was. I knew it was super high. And literally the next day this article comes out. I'm not exaggerating. I posted that in the Discord. What's going on with the turnover rate at the initiative? The next day this article comes out. So here's the thing. Is Perfect Dark in peril? I'm going to say no, but wait. Only because Crystal Dynamics came in, right? You have a giant team with a ton of experience that's already established now working on this game. So I would say Perfect Dark itself. Is Perfect Dark in peril? I'd say no, but the troubling thing is the initiative, right? Because from the reports, it sounds like essentially Crystal Dynamics is developing this game. Like the initiative is kind of overseeing the project. I'm sure they are still the overall creative leads on this, like creatively, because they're the ones who started this concept. They're the ones who even, booted Perfect Dark up. But it sounds like basically all the development, for the most part, is happening from Crystal Dynamics. So basically it sounds like Crystal Dynamics is kind of saving the day here. The thing that is worrying is the initiative. And this has been worrying for a while. I have known for quite a while that turnover rate was super high there. A lot of people, including very, very talented people from across the industry, went to the initiative, didn't last long, and left. Now, who knows why that's going on, right? I'm not going to tell you that I have all the inside knowledge and the workings of what's happening at the initiative and exactly why people are leaving and all this, right? There's reports out there from VGC. You can read about it. But clearly, something went wrong with this studio, right? I don't think there's any debate about that. You don't bring in as much talent as they did, work on something for years, and bleed as much talent as you did with everything being sugar and rainbows. All of the industry has some turnover, right? Every single company in this industry has devs, including of senior roles that come in, they'll leave. But the initiatives is shockingly high, especially for how small of a studio they are. People forget that the initiative isn't like 343 that has like 700 employees, right? If you're a gigantic dev studio like that and like 30 people leave over the course of a couple years or whatever, it doesn't look like that big of a deal, right? It's a small overall percentage of your workforce. But the initiative is small. They never got up to those huge numbers. So for the amount of turnover they have for how small of an actual studio it is, it's alarming, right? There's no way to put it. Am I going to say that the initiative is doomed? No, but clearly some reworkings and some restructuring and some stuff has to happen there, because you can't afford to have that sort of turnover rate. So Perfect Dark sounds like it's still years away. I will say that with this news, it makes the bringing in of Crystal Dynamics make a heck of a lot more sense, right? Whenever that first popped up, people were kind of like, what? Why are you having a whole dev studio from somewhere else help co-developing this game? It makes a lot more sense now, right? If they're basically the ones doing the vast bulk of the development, makes sense. So yeah, we'll have to see. Perfect Dark is a project I was never personally ultra stoked for because I have no attachment to the originals. And from rumors about this being somewhat of a service game, I think that's potentially a bad idea considering the IP. I'm not sure if it lends itself to service games, but we'll have to see how they tackle and design it. But yeah, worrying for the initiative. Very worrying. Akbar here with a 5 super chat, but I'm not seeing a question. Okay, here we go. And thank you so much for that super chat, Akbar. Forgot to include the message. Hi, Benji. You're in charge of Xbox, and your boy Satya asked you to choose between Ubisoft, Epic, including Unreal Engine, and Valve as strategic acquisitions. Okay, so this is just a total hypothetical, right? Total hypothetical. Because the only one, if you want my honest answer, the only one out of these I could see actually happening would be Ubisoft. I've said it before in this chat, I really will be shocked if someone doesn't buy Ubisoft within the next 5 years because they are a company with a ton of workforce, a ton of IP, and their market cap's not very high. So I think the biggest risk with acquiring Ubisoft is how many devs they have, right? Because it's a massive amount of payroll you're bringing on because they literally have they're one of the biggest in the entire industry in terms of workforce, but that's also a good thing because it gives you a ton of devs and you also get a ton of owned IP from them. And like I said, their market cap's not very high. So in terms of what I think is the most likely, whether it's Microsoft, Sony, even Take-Two or somebody else buying them, I think Ubisoft's the most likely one to be acquired. Now, if it was just up to me, right, it's a pure hypothetical, all 3 of these companies are willing to sell, it's got to be Valve. You're basically going to get the biggest storefront on PC. That's especially useful if you're Microsoft, right? Because Microsoft is so embedded on PC anyways, and their games now are fully supporting PC, whereas we're seeing Sony kind of move that direction, but Microsoft's fully in, right? All their games day one on PC. Valve is definitely the one that makes the most sense. You get a bit of a VR inroads as well because they've done a ton of VR development. Valve, absolutely. You're not going to get the giant workforce that you're going to get from someone like Ubisoft. You're not going to get all those owned IP because while Valve owns a few, like Half-Life and Portal and stuff, they don't own as many as someone like Ubisoft does. But I think Valve's the best strategic acquisition just for Steam alone, just for getting Steam and all of that storefront. That would be very big for Microsoft. Epic would be really cool. Unreal Engine's awesome. But I think Epic actually would be less attractive than Valve because, getting an engine's cool, but they already have a lot of engines and they already are licensing Unreal Engine. Whereas if they owned Valve, think about how much freaking revenue they'd be getting off of Steam, not just for their games, but also for all those third-party games. So that would be the biggest one, but the most likely is Ubisoft. All right, thank you for that super chat. Hammersley Ford says, Benji and damage control. No, I was literally saying that the initiative's in big trouble, so I can't understand that. I literally outright said that the initiative's in trouble. So that's a weird one. Unless it wasn't Hammersley Ford saying that, it might have been somebody else. But there was definitely no damage control going on there. I literally said that that they're in trouble. And I knew about this before the article ever went live. Brock with the 2 super chat. Do your coworkers know you're kind of a big deal? It's funny. I don't think of myself as that way. But it is definitely starting to get there where it is kind of crazy, the support. I'm not far from 40,000 followers on Twitter now. Here's the thing. It's like my daily life is so mundane that it's hard for me to really get like an ego over it or anything, because sometimes I'll have people ask me, and I don't think I'm like the best person in the world at all by any means, to be clear here, but I'll occasionally get people ask me, they're like, how do you stay humble and stuff like that? For me, it's not hard because like my daily life is like a completely normal person. I don't work in the video game industry. I'm not some big, huge media guy. I literally go to work and I work an entry-level retail job in my 30s. Like, I'm like a loser, to be honest, kind of. I don't think that people that work retail are losers. I've been doing it my entire life. But I mean, like, compared to a lot of people around me, I'm a lot further behind in life than a lot of people, right? Like I work the same job that a 17-year-old in high school works. So I go to work and I do that. I stock shelves at night and ring people out on cash registers. And I just live a very normal life. So for me, the support is awesome. It honestly saved my life. I don't want to give you guys a whole bunch of like sob stories here, but my depression was unbelievable before I came on Twitter, and it kind of saved my life, to be honest. But I in my normal life, no one would think of me as like, wow, this is a guy that has a following, right? I seem like a completely normal dude. So my coworkers know about it. I don't think they think I'm cool because of it or anything. Even my boss knows about it. My boss literally follows me on Twitter. So, and they know about it, but I don't think anyone thinks I'm like cool because of it, to be honest with you, because I'm so like normal. Maybe if I was like actually like a big media head or something like that, then some people might be like, wow, this guy's cool, but I'm pretty low key in my life. Thank you so much, Brock. Highlander with a 10 super chat here. Thank you so much, Highlander. Benji, happy St. Patrick's Day. And that's a really generous one. Thank you, Highlander. And happy St. Patty's Day to you. Once the Activision Blizzard acquisition is finalized, do you think Microsoft will pick up smaller support developers to help their main teams? Ooh, here we go. Do you think Microsoft will pick up smaller support devs to help their main teams? They need to do something. Because here's the main issue with Microsoft, and I've been talking about this even, like I said, on like Discord with a couple people. Here's the thing. Microsoft owns a ton of studios now, tons of studios, and they still, as of this moment, don't have a lot to show for it. And I hate to say that, and I hate for it to sound like that. They've released some awesome games, right? Awesome. I literally loved Halo Infinite, though it has had some issues post-release. I literally loved Forza Horizon 5, loved Psychonauts 2, right? They released some great games last year. So to be clear here, I'm not trying to say that, like, Microsoft don't got no games, right? Because that's the thing you see sometimes. But for the amount of studios that they own, and for the massive amount of workforce they have, I mean, we're going to go, at least 6 months into 2022 with no first-party games from Xbox, right? At least. And that's if Redfall's going to be in June. Could be later than June. All we know is it's summer. And then Starfield's not until November. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that, right? Part of it is because a lot of these studios that they acquired, right when they acquired them, they were either finishing contracts on games that were coming out, right? They bought some of these teams like Double Fine before their game was out, right? They were making Psychonauts 2. So part of it's going to be that, when they bought them, they hadn't had time to pivot to a brand new game yet. Or some of those teams they bought while they were still very, very early in development. So to be clear, I can somewhat understand why this is happening. But on the flip side, Microsoft is in a position now that they need to start showing. Like, they need to start having games. Okay? Like, really, really showing games. Starfield, they keep doing this concept art thing. And it's, don't get me wrong, the concept art looks great. I think these pieces are really well done. And I understand that Bethesda waits a really long time to show their games before release. But the problem is that when you have nothing else to show, and they're not showing any other games right now, like literally Microsoft's showing 0 games at the moment, it's not helping the narrative that, hey, the only thing we're going to show for any of our games right now is some concept art. Like, they gotta start showing stuff, man. They really, really do. So, would support teams help that? I have no idea. But they gotta increase the output. And here's one thing too, to be clear, is that one thing I really respect is clearly Phil Spencer is aware of this as well. I'm sure you guys can hear my dog. I'm sorry, it's because a package just got delivered, so he's losing his mind. Phil Spencer, I saw him on the Xbox Era podcast, and he even said this himself, right? One of the hosts, I apologize, can't remember your name off the top of my head, said to him when they were asking what game he's looking forward to the most, they said, yeah, you almost have too much to pick from. And I really respect what Phil Spencer said, because Phil Spencer himself said not too many games. And he said, we need a game every quarter. And right now, if you look at the calendar, we're not hitting that this year. And he basically was really clear. Like, he knows the games have to come quicker. They need more games on the docket. So I really respect that. I'm glad that Phil is aware of it. But they got to start talking soon, dude. Like, they've got to. So would smaller support teams help that? I don't know. To be honest with you, they just need to get the studios they have now figured out first, in my opinion. Once all that starts firing on all cylinders, I think they'll be in a lot better spot. But right now, they have so many studios and almost nothing to show for it in terms of what's upcoming, right? And a lot of those games are just nebulous. Fable, we've literally never seen anything but a CG trailer. Redfall, we've never seen anything but a CG trailer. Starfield, we've never seen anything but a concept video and artwork. Like, I could go down the list, right? They got to start talking. But there's still a lot I'm looking forward to. So I'm not trying to say doom and gloom on Xbox, but they got to do something. Frostbite Slash here with a 10 super chat. Do you think it's strange that Sony is holding a state of play entirely for Hogwarts, a third-party game? Normally they do this for their own first-party games that have timed exclusivity. I think the reason this is happening is I think Sony thinks this thing's going to be a freaking monster. And what I can say is that regardless of all the controversy around J.K. Rowling and the Harry Potter brand, right? There's a ton going on that. Harry Potter itself is still a juggernaut. So just my tweet alone, my random little tweet about this got over 5,000 likes on Twitter. For some people, that's not a lot, right? Some people are constantly getting tweets with over 5,000 likes. But you guys know me. You guys know I like to watch engagement and data. For me, it was by far the biggest state of play tweet I've ever had. Way bigger than their first party games. I got more likes on this than I did for the Horizon announcement, for the Last of Us Part 2 announcement, the Ghost of Tsushima state of play announcement. Over 5,000 likes on that from me. Other people got huge amounts of likes on it. And people forget, this is one of the most watched trailers ever on the PlayStation YouTube channel. Like, literally, it's right up there as one of. I think it's over 23 or 28 million, something like that. Man, I don't even know off the top of my head. It's over 20 million. So I think my guess, and we know Sony has the marketing rights on it, my guess is they think this thing's going to be a true juggernaut, and they want this to sell on their platform. Could they have some stuff like exclusive, DLC or timed exclusive DLCs? That is possible because we know they've got the marketing deal. But yeah, I think they think it's going to be a juggernaut, Frostbite, and they want those games to sell on PlayStation, not on Xbox or PC if they can help it. So we'll have to see. Kellegrim with a 5 super chat. Benji, the wife said you'd be up for some co-op Elden Ring later. Yes. Hit me up when you start and I'll show you all the cheap ways to beat bosses I've found. Kellegrim, I hope you're not using the Mimic or the Frost Stomp or things like that because they just nerfed them all. But yeah, sure, man. I'll hit you up. But yes, they just nerfed a bunch of stuff in Elden Ring apparently. So it was all stuff that I haven't gotten to because I've been playing this game now and it's incredible, by the way. I'm a magic build, but it wasn't stuff that I had been using, but I feel bad for people that were using this stuff to make the game easier because From just came in and nerfed a ton of stuff. So hopefully, Kellegrim, you weren't using that. But I'll be honest, it could be because I'm a magic build, but I haven't been struggling with Elden Ring that much, surprisingly. For me, I think it might be the easiest From Software game so far. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I'm sure the difficulty gets more the deeper you go. But, I mean, I'm smashing through this way easier than, like, Bloodborne or Sekiro or anything like that. So it might be the easiest one for me, but we'll see. Like, for me, it's even been easier than Demon Souls. but I'm still early. All right, I think Super Chats are cleared. Holy cow, that was a lot of Super Chats. Thank you so much, everybody. Let's start rocking into your free questions. Split End 89. Benji, what is up, Split End? Best mod in the business. Odds on a release date for Hogwarts Legacy at the state of play. I'm putting it at like 90%. Is this a lock? No, but I'll be really surprised if we get out of the state of play without a release date. My stance is if we don't get a release date here, I'm somewhat doubtful, not for sure, but I'm somewhat doubtful that this game is still going to release this year. Because the thing is it's kind of easy to forget, but we're already pretty deep into this year now. We're already, over halfway through March. I suspect that we will know the release dates for essentially every single 2022 game remaining within the next 3 months, right? By June, right? That's usually when the very latest is by E3. There might be like 1 or 2 that slip in later than that, but usually by E3 time, the release date of essentially every game that's still coming out this year. So could they potentially sit on it for a few more months if they're going to be part of a PlayStation showcase or something this summer? They could. So that's why I'm not putting it at 100%, because maybe they'll save the date for something like that. But I do think it's very high because like I said, we're already in March. A lot of games are going to start getting release dates here really quickly, like a lot of games. We should know God of War within the next couple months, right? Any game that doesn't have a release date in the next 2 to 3 months, I'd be highly cautious of assuming it's still coming out this year. So I'm putting it pretty high, Split End. Pretty high, 90%. Fernando Harada. Hi, Benji. What do you expect for the future of From Software? Do you think they will continue to do Souls-like games, or will expand to other types of games such as Sekiro, Armored Core, and Kuon? Do you think that From Software and Sony will work together in other games? So, couple things. Great question, by the way, Fernando. So, what I'm expecting from FromSoft moving forward. First of all, Armored Core already leaked. So, spoiler alert. Apologize if you guys didn't want to know that, but you probably have known it by now because it did go all over the internet. Their next game's Armored Core, and it sounds like it's very far in development, actually. Screenshots and everything leaked of this game. So Armored Core is next. I don't remember if they said when that release date is, but I suspect it's not far considering screenshots and stuff leaked. If the release date leaked, I apologize. I'm guessing this is next year, though, considering how far in development it looked. So Armored Core up next. After that, I'm expecting an Elden Ring sequel. Now, I haven't beat the game, so I don't really know exactly how the story ends, if there's any room for a sequel. But here's the thing. You don't have a success of this level, and you don't not follow it up. This is a whole different order of magnitude than something like Bloodborne was, right? People always ask, where's the Bloodborne sequel? Where's the Bloodborne sequel? And I've said it on this chat before, as amazing as Bloodborne is, and I love Bloodborne, it wasn't a giant seller. That is just the truth. Now, was it a bomb? No. To be clear, right? Everyone wants to think of everything as like the biggest game ever or the smallest game ever. It was not a bomb. It was not a financial loss. I'm just saying this wasn't like some insane seller, right? If this thing had sold 10 plus million units like Dark Souls 3, I think you would have already seen a sequel by now if it did it like quickly. This thing sold the previous best-selling From Software game ever was Dark Souls 3. It took that 4 years to sell 10 million copies. Elden Ring outsold it and sold over 12 million copies in like 3 weeks. So, I mean, you don't not follow that up. There's gonna be an Elden Ring 2. Even if the story doesn't make sense where it leaves off and I haven't beat it, I'm telling you, Bandai and Kudakawa and everyone's going to push them for Elden Ring 2. So I think you're absolutely going to get a sequel to Elden Ring. I suspect that, like I said, Armored Core next, then the Elden Ring sequel. And people have been asking, do I think that From will work with Sony? We've had a lot of questions about that. I'm somewhat doubtful only because From has become so big. In order to get an exclusive from them now, whether you're anyone, whether you're Sony, whether you're Xbox, I think you're going to have to come with a gargantuan paycheck. So, because you're basically, I mean, they're going to throw away a lot of units, to be honest with you. Because the reality is as amazing as this sold on PlayStation, it did. It sold amazing. It sold a freaking ton of units on PC, and it's actually even done well on Xbox. Now, Xbox is the smallest platform of those three, right, to be clear, but we're still talking that this thing sold millions on Xbox already. It really has. It's sold millions on Xbox. So, again, not as much as PlayStation, but you're still looking at a couple million on Xbox already. So you're going to be throwing away a few million on Xbox and potentially a freaking ton on PC, depending on how the contract works, right? Sony's not completely against PC now, but we're still not seeing them day and date. Third parties, though, maybe, because of Forspoken, but they own the Bloodborne IP. Sony does. So would Sony be willing to put Bloodborne Day 1 on PC? I don't know. So I would say From Software making a PlayStation exclusive isn't impossible, but I think it's actually not super likely unless Sony's going to give them a fat paycheck, like big paycheck, which you never know. You can't rule that out. Sony might be like, listen, here's a freaking $100 million plus, make us a game. You never know, but it's going to take something like that. You can't come up and be like, hey, we'll pay for marketing, all your marketing for your game if you'll make us a sequel, or hey, we'll give you $20 million. Like, that ain't going to work anymore. You're going to need like $100+ million to get a From Software exclusive. All right. Yoda Soda. Hello there, Benji. Why are publishers and developers shying away from creating licensed kids games? Great question. We don't see often a DuckTales, Mickey Mouse platforms, or Toy Story game or Frozen game. Yoda Soda, you're right on the money. I know this isn't the most exciting topic to talk about, especially with my audience, right? We're all basically super hardcore gamers. But I've talked about this on the chat before, Yoda Soda. There's a huge missed opportunity for kids games. A ton. So much of the industry is hyper-focused on M-rated games, like a lot of M-rated games, and a lot of T games, right? We don't see a ton of E for everyone. Really, the person that's carrying that flag in the industry is Nintendo, just straight up. They're making the games that are good for, everything from a 5-year-old all the way up to an 80-year-old. A lot of the rest of the companies are not doing this. I think the main reason, to be honest with you, Yoda Soda, is because the big money still is in these M-rated games. We know that the average age of gamers right now is all the way up into like the 30s to 40s now, right? It's basically the average has come up to like the middle-aged person, or a little bit under, right? Like 30s. But that kind of makes sense. When you look at the average age of people, you're going to fall into that window as a whole. So it makes sense that's where the average gamer is. It used to be really focused towards younger people as the older generations didn't grow up on video games, but our generations have. So that's where like your biggest chunk of players are. So I think publishers want to hit those biggest chunk of people. So that's why they still really make these types of games. But there is a huge market out there, I would say still, yeah, for like Mickey Mouse, Frozen. Why there hasn't been a Frozen game to me is crazy. You don't have to give it a giant AAA budget. You could come in with a pretty cheap budget, right? I'm sure the licensing would be expensive, so that might be a hindrance too. But Yoda Soda, it is a missed opportunity. I agree with you, 100%. As someone with a daughter who's obsessed with anything Disney, it is a missed opportunity. Because I can promise you, she's still a little too young to play with a controller. But if she was like on her mobile, like stuff she can use as a touchscreen, she always wants to play Frozen and all that kind of stuff. So when she's like 5 or 6, I think she would love that. So yeah, you're right. Yoda, so you're 100% right. Oh, and this is also a great point, Yoda Soda, and I think you are right. Is it due to shifting the audience into mobile? Yeah, instead of consoles. Look at what I just said about my daughter. She's playing those games on mobile, right? She's not playing them holding a controller. So Yoda Soda, that's an excellent point. Excellent point. A lot of that stuff is on mobile. So honestly, great call out. Benji. Hi, Benji. Elden Ring sales are a shock for everybody. 12 million seems ridiculously high. It is. It's shocking. What other examples could you point out at sales that were outrageously higher than expected? Yeah, I mean, Elden Ring is shocking. It is shocking how big this is. I knew coming into this, and I was publicly talking about it, that this would be the biggest From Software launch ever, right? Biggest From Software launch. I was on Xbox Chatter Days, and I was talking with Miles about this before release. And I was like, don't be surprised if you see this thing double Dark Souls 3, right? Which would have been a huge success at launch, right? If it did double Dark Souls 3's performance at launch, that would have been fantastic. This crushed doubling Dark Souls 3. In fact, not only did it double Dark Souls 3's launch, it freaking outsold the game lifetime in its first 3 weeks. I mean, it's insane. So Elden Ring overperformed to such a level, it's hard to compare anything else to it. A couple things I could point to would be the game that it actually replaced, Monster Hunter World, right? Monster Hunter World before this was the fastest selling third-party Japanese game. That was another one that while it had always been big in the West, we had never seen Monster Hunter or big in Japan. It had never broken out in the West the way World did. So that's a great example there I can think of. I can think of another one that just happened last month, Lost Ark. Who saw that thing doing over 1 million concurrent players and becoming one of the top 5 biggest games ever on Steam at launch? I mean, I could have never predicted that for you for Lost Ark. I saw some buzz around it. I thought it might do well, but I thought like 500,000 concurrent players would be amazing. This thing did over 1 million, and it's still doing giant numbers. Lost Ark was a huge surprise. You could point to smaller ones that are surprising how well they did. Luigi's Mansion 3 is one that sticks out as just crushing the previous games in sales. You look at Breath of the Wild, the way that's just crushed Zelda sales. I mean, there's a lot you can point to. But that's just a few that stick out off the top of my head right now. Cyberpunk was a giant launch, but that actually didn't surprise me. I thought Cyberpunk was going to be one of the biggest launches ever. But that's just a few off the top. Eddie Brock, Benji Boy. Apparently EA moving forward isn't interested in the Star Wars license. Thoughts on that? Well, no, they are, because they're making Fallen Order 2. They're just not like exclusive with it. Do you think publishers like EA are tired of licensed IPs and want to make original IPs instead? No, Eddie, they're still going to make Star Wars games. They even outright said that they're, in fact, didn't they announce 3 games? Yeah, they announced 3 Star Wars games. So no, Eddie, they're not out of Star Wars. They're just not the exclusive license anymore. They have 3 Star Wars games in development, right? Wasn't that... Yeah, it is EA that said that. They've got Fallen Order 2 in the works. They've got a first-person shooter Star Wars game and I believe a strategy game. So they're actually still all in on Star Wars. They're just not the only ones licensing it anymore. Probably, my guess is that was probably a 2-way deal. I think both of them probably didn't want to pursue that anymore. I'm sure for EA it was ultra expensive being the only one. I'm sure they paid a lot of money. And I also am pretty sure that Disney was not happy with the amount of output that EA had with Star Wars, where they only released a few games and like that whole time span they had that license. So I think it was a bit of both why they separated on that. But no, EA's still making a lot of licensed Star Wars games. At least 3 that we know of right now. And publishers across the board, I would say actually, as crazy as it sounds, I think licensed IPs are more attractive now than they were last gen. Because now you're even seeing Insomniac with multiple licensed games. You're seeing them making Spider-Man and Wolverine. You know, you're seeing, of course, WB games, they're all making WB licenses. But we know Ubisoft's making a Star Wars game. Ubisoft's making an Avatar game. Eddie, I think licenses are actually more attractive now than last generation. I'm always still going to root for new IPs. I love new IPs, but there's a lot of licensed games in the works. A lot. I think we had multiple super chats just drop. Thank you so much, everybody. Let me hit those super chats. Yeah, we do have a few. Highlander with a 5. No, I do not mind my daughter playing my Switch, but I draw the line at my Series X. I need to play Elden Ring. I could break out my Xbox. Yeah, I totally get that, Highlander. Like I've said, I'm lucky in that I don't have to share my consoles with my daughter yet, but I know it's coming. Every time my daughter sees me on my Switch, she's eyeing it. So I know it's coming. Right now, she's still a little too young. Anytime I put a controller in her hand, she's confused by them still. She's only 3. She'll be 4 soon. But it's coming. I know it's coming. And, I mean, yeah, Xbox, even though there's not even a ton of games probably that your daughter could play. Well, I don't know. Maybe. But, yeah, they all need to step up on that anyways. But, yeah, I totally get that, Highlander. Thanks for that super chat, man. Brock with a 5. Why do we not see more IPs being sold by companies not using them, like Metal Gear, Deus Ex, Splinter Cell, Sleeping Dogs, Jade Empire, SSX, etc.? This is a great question. Brock, I think for games that are owned by major publishers that are still making games, I get why it doesn't happen. Probably because A, no one wants to buy it from them because it's probably going to be too expensive for what people think that IP is worth just to randomly buy an IP from somebody. And also, I think that these companies like to have it in their back pocket in case they ever do want to reboot it, right? People forget EA tried to reboot SSX and it didn't work out, right? But they tried to. And now we're seeing them years later try to bring back Dead Space and try to bring back Skate, for example. So I think one hand, probably they would ask a ton of money to sell the IP, and whenever you don't have any experience as another company making those games, it's not really worth it. And on the flip side, like I said, I think the companies want that in their back pocket to just be like, if we ever want to come back to this, we can. The big one here, though, like you mentioned at the top, like, for example, Metal Gear, I think Konami should license their IPs out because Konami's essentially done with AAA development. They still make, like, some projects, like they had that new Yu-Gi-Oh game, but it's not like a big, giant AAA production, right? They're not making big, giant Metal Gear games, big, giant Silent Hill games, big, giant Castlevania games. Like, none of that's being made. So somebody like them outright selling the IP doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but licensing it, yeah, I think they should license those IPs. I think they could get a lot of money potentially, especially Metal Gear. But the risk there is would people be receptive to Metal Gear without Kojima? I think that's the big risk. I mean, when you think of Metal Gear, you think of Kojima. So that could be risky, licensing out Metal Gear, because maybe people don't buy it because they don't want it if Kojima's not making it. So, but if anyone should, I would say it is Konami, yeah. If anybody should. Frostbite Slash here with a 5. Horizon is out a month now, and no sales numbers have still been announced. Yeah, not great. Where do you think it's at right now? So this is a big talking point at the moment. Where's Horizon Forbidden West at in sales? Okay, out of looking at every market that we do have data for, I would say best case, this is best case. Best case scenario, I think it's at 5 million, and it could be under that. That's best case in my opinion. Because if you look at what this thing did in its opening in NPD, I saw a report floating out there that it was around 1 million. I don't know for that for sure, because to be clear, I don't have the NPD number for that. Sometimes I do have NPD numbers, which I won't give here if I know for a fact it's true, because I don't leak NPD's data. I don't have an exact number on Horizon in NPD, but I've heard it's around 1 million. Not like way above, like right around 1 million, not like 1.5, 1.7, around 1 million in NPD. I mean, even if you did another 1 million in that same time frame in Europe, or even if it's higher, that puts you, let's say you did 2 million in Europe, which would be pretty impressive considering US was 1 million, so it seems unlikely. But that would still put you at like 3 million, and then you'd factor in Japan, which isn't going to be millions, right? It's going to be, I mean, I think the game probably sold, depending on what digital ratio is, you're probably still looking, though, under 200,000 in Japan, probably. I think, if I'm remembering physical charts right, I don't think this thing hit 200,000, so I think it's 100 something. So, sorry, allergies. Best case scenario for Horizon to me seems to be 5 million. Probably under that, though, to be honest. Probably looking at 3 to 4 million. That sounds right to me. If NPD really was 1 million, 3 to 4 million, I think is best, or not best case. I think 3 to 4 million is realistic, and 5 million's best case. That's how I would rank it. 3 to 4 million likely. I don't think it's under that. If it's 1 million in NPD at start, it's going to do at least another 1 million in Europe and add everything together. You know, plus that was just for February. We're already deep into March. 3 to 4 million sounds right. 5 million best case. I honestly can't see it over 5 million though. I can't see it over 5 million. I hope though. I mean, I'm always rooting for it to succeed. I got the platinum on this game, but that's the best case. Benji here with a 10. What do you think about Disney Plus series output? Marvel and Star Wars, quality and quantity. Your favorite series so far, the disappointments, what Disney could do better. I actually really love having a Disney Plus show to watch. I actually feel like really bummed when there's no current big new Disney Plus show to stream. my opinions on their quality vary a lot, but even the ones I didn't think, like, I would say my biggest disappointment by far was Boba Fett. I thought Boba Fett had 2 excellent episodes, and the rest of it was just okay. Like, I didn't hate Boba Fett. Some people outright hated Boba Fett, but I thought that show was okay. But then it had 2 really great episodes. So my biggest disappointment, Boba Fett, and probably the next worst one, Hawkeye. But even Hawkeye, I actually enjoyed it. Like, I liked that show. But that would probably rank towards the bottom. But even, like I said, even at their worst, there hasn't been one I've hated. Like, I haven't watched any Disney Plus series. I'm like, God, I hate this show. So I really enjoy having them on. My biggest, the ones that I think are the best, the ones that I enjoyed the most, WandaVision was incredible. Loki, I thought, was incredible. I'm one of those that really leaned on the side of loving Loki. I think those were probably the 2 best, WandaVision and Loki. And Mandalorian. How could I forget Mandalorian? Those are the 3 best to me. The 3 best that they've made, WandaVision, Loki, and Mandalorian. And the ones that were the closest to disappointments or just underwhelmed, Boba Fett, Hawkeye, and parts of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Falcon and the Winter Soldier had some really high highs and also some kind of mediocre parts, but I guess that would be my top 3 and bottom 3. But they do need to increase the output. They do. No streaming service should at any week, not even 1 week of the year, should you not have something big airing. If you're a streaming service that's asking people to subscribe, to constantly stay engaged, period, you need at least one big show every single week of the year. That's right. You should never go a week without a big show. And they do. Like, we have a gap right now. Boba Fett's over, and we haven't had a big new show. They've dropped, like, a movie, but I'm talking about a series. We'll go from Boba Fett, and there won't be a new one until the end of March with Moon Knight. I mean, that should never happen. You should have a new show every single week that people are watching. And Danger Man here with a 2. Sorry, Pester wants some questions from B4 answered. Oh, okay. Thank you for that super chat, Danger Man. What were your questions? Let me scroll up. Let me look for your questions. Was it about... there's a lot of Danger Man stuff here. Danger Man, let me know. Danger Man, right at the bottom, because you did super chat, type exactly which question you wanted me to answer, and I'm going to come right back to it after I hit one more. So let me know exactly which one you wanted, because I'm seeing a few things in there. So let me know. And I'll come right back down, Danger Man. All right. Where did I leave off up here? Hammersley Ford. Benji Boy, thoughts on Xbox outselling PlayStation in Europe? Yeah, this is big. Many people criticize Series S, but turns out Microsoft knew what they were doing. Fire emoji. Yes, so let's talk about this, because this is pretty crazy. In fact, one thing people aren't realizing, I believe this is the first time this has happened since the Xbox 360 generation. I don't even know that the Xbox One ever... And I could be wrong, but I don't remember a time that Xbox One outsold PlayStation 4 in Europe. Now, let's contextualize this. Because there's obviously a big 800-pound gorilla in the room. And that is PlayStation 5 shortages, right? So would this scenario have happened if PlayStation 5 was readily stocked? If there was PlayStation 5s on every store shelf and Xboxes on every store shelf, do I think that Xbox Series would have outsold PlayStation in February? No, because PlayStation is just still way more dominant of a brand in Europe. It just is. Let's be real here. Way more dominant of a brand in Europe than Xbox is. And February was a month with big new releases like Horizon, right? So if they were all on store shelves, I think that PlayStation would have outsold Xbox. But the reality is, when you look at data, you can only work with what you've got, right? So the thing is that is that Xbox has units to sell and PlayStation doesn't. This potentially could help them in the long run, establishing a stronger foothold this generation than they had during like the Xbox One generation, right? Because you're at least getting people in the door right now because you at least have a console to be on sale. So I think this could potentially pay dividends long term. The biggest thing here is without a doubt the Series S, because that thing is like the most common next-gen platform on the market to find right now. It's the same here in the US. It's the same thing in Europe. Series X is still unbelievably supply constrained. I mean, Series X is basically in the same situation that PlayStation 5 is, in that once it goes on sale, it's gone very, very rapidly. There might be a few markets in Europe that's not the case, but the vast majority of the world right now, Series X's aren't just sitting on shelves. For the most part, they come in and they're gone. Same thing happens with PlayStation 5. Whereas Series S, the demand for Series S, like the raw demand, is not as high as it is for Series X and PlayStation 5 outside of holiday months, I would say. Series S had a ton of demand in the holidays because you're getting a lot of gift buyers. Outside of that, the evidence I'm seeing is people still want Series X way more, but the reality is they're really hard to get. Series S, not so much. That thing ended up being a freaking win for Microsoft this generation. And I made a tweet that I had to actually delete because people just turned into like instant console warriors on it, which was really sad to see because I thought I was making a positive Xbox tweet. Like literally, I thought this was a positive Xbox, and for bizarre reason, the Xbox community attacked me over it. So I had said, what a stroke of luck the Series S ended up being for Microsoft, right? And what I meant by that was that when the Series S was first being conceptualized, right, there was no pandemic. These consoles came out in 2020, right? You don't just design a console the year it comes out. This thing was in development before there was ever a global pandemic, which caused a massive chip shortage, right? So I said, like, what a stroke of luck that ended up being. And I didn't mean that... what I meant by it wasn't that, Microsoft, it's just luck that this thing sells, or it's just luck that they had it. I meant it's lucky that they have a platform right now that's a lot easier to produce due to smaller silicon than what a PS5 or what a Series X is. They can just get more units out there, and that was a factor of luck for them, and it's worked out great. So the things to take away, do I think that this is going to happen every single month? All of a sudden, Xbox is just going to be taking months from PlayStation 5 in Europe? No, unless these PS5 shortages seriously continue to the levels that they are right now, which is really, really bad. And then on the plus side, though, for Microsoft, is at least they got a console to sell, which can help gain momentum in the market. So Series S, yeah, huge win for them. All right. I think we had... Let me get back to Danger Man. Okay. What was Danger Man talking about? Yes, Elden Ring. Oh, Elden Ring. I want answered. Okay, what is it? Let me see, Danger Man. Sorry, I'm trying to find your Elden Ring question. Oh, here we go. Benji-Sales. Here we go. I see you, Danger Man. I see it. About Elden Ring. 20 million by end of year? Potential best US year-to-date selling game until Modern Warfare 2. Also, do you think by their mention of expanding beyond gaming is interesting? You know what I'll say? If HBO does adapt Elden Ring, I hope someone like Matt Reeves does it than the Game of Thrones alum. Because watching The Batman showed this. Because Game of Thrones failed because it tried to pander. Think about it. That's why I do not want anywhere near the fantasy adaptation at this point. Okay, so can Elden Ring be the best-selling game in the US until Modern Warfare 2? I'd actually say that's extremely likely. Because it has so long to sell, right? This thing came out in February, and it was already globally at 12 million. We have a lot of signs that legs are great. This thing's still doing giant numbers on Steam every day. It's still number one every single day on the Steam bestsellers list, and we're seeing encouraging signs of legs in places like the UK. Looking at the calendar, I mean, the only thing that could... I don't know if there's any game. I don't know that there's any game that could go in front of it until Modern Warfare. I'm trying to think. I mean, Starfield's November, but Starfield's not going to do it. I'm just telling you guys that right now. Total players will be interesting for Starfield because it'll have the Game Pass component. So that could be higher, right? You could see something crazy like 20 million players for Starfield in the first month. That wouldn't actually surprise me because of Game Pass. But if we're talking about sales and NPD charts, Starfield will not outsell Elden Ring before the end of the year. It's not going to happen. I guess maybe it would depend when Zelda comes out, Breath of the Wild 2, if that's still this year. But I think that's going to come so late in the year that probably won't be able to catch Elden Ring either. Danger Man, I can't think of a single game that will be able to beat it before the end of the year until Modern Warfare 2. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I can't think of a single game that would do it. So, there's Pokemon, but Pokemon, again, so late. That's probably going to be November, right? Which will probably be when Modern Warfare 2 is here, right? So we're talking about until Modern Warfare 2. Yeah, no, there's not. There's nothing that's going to catch it, I don't think. And then in terms of them expanding Elden Ring, yeah, I definitely think that they're probably going to do a show or movie based off of it. Their statement, whenever they announced how much this sold, they said that they're looking to expand the IP beyond just the games. Here's the thing. They could totally do something about the lands between in that universe before it all fell, right? Because when you're playing Elden Ring, no spoilers, but you're playing the game basically after this whole giant civilization and everything fell down, like after its height. And there was like a big giant war that happened and stuff before the game. You could clearly George R.R. Martin wrote the backstory for all of this. You could easily turn that into a TV show or a movie based off of that lore, what happened prior to Elden Ring. You absolutely could. And I think that's probably what they're talking about. Yeah, is either a series or a movie. I think so. All right. Back to your questions. What time is it? 1:23. I'm going to go for about 10 or 15 more minutes, and then we got to go. Thanks for a great turnout on chat today, everyone. Thanks for all the super chats. All right, 10 or 15 more minutes, and then I got to bounce. Who knows? Maybe I'll push it a little longer. We'll see. I'm going to hit it as much as I can. Plastic Hearts. See the new Supermassive game trailer for Quarry. Looks awesome. Supermassive keeps pumping games out like nobody's business. I have not played any of their games but Until Dawn. Loved Until Dawn. And the Quarry, to me at least, looks like the first game that looks like an actual successor to Until Dawn. I know they made a lot of like somewhat similar games in those Dark Pictures trilogy games, but those looked like they had reduced scope and budget, and they looked to me like almost not like a true successor to Until Dawn. The Quarry looks like that, so I hope it's good. Because I loved Until Dawn. I think that game's awesome. Super underrated. Hammersley Ford's asking about the initiative mess. Yeah, we talked about that. Venom Harness. After Microsoft's acquisition of Activision is finalized, they will have 33 studios counting support studios. Meanwhile, Sony have 24. So how could Sony compete with Xbox's 33 studios? Well, to be honest, unless Xbox starts increasing that output, they can. Because, yeah, Xbox has got to get the ball rolling. I mean, 2022 is looking like a rough year for them. I hope it turns around in the second half, and I think it will. I think once we get Redfall, Starfield, it's going to be amazing. But, like, I mean, again, just like last year, we're probably going to go at least half the year without a new Xbox game. That's kind of not good, especially whenever you have a service like Game Pass. So I think this isn't doom and gloom. I think Xbox is going to be amazing in the next couple of years, but they have a lot of work to do still to prove it. Miles Morales, with the age of the internet at its peak, and with E3 on their last legs, what's the ideal way to announce new games? Publishers making their own Nintendo Direct in a random month or in June? Great question, Miles. I think if you're a third-party publisher, it's probably best to do exactly what EA said they're going to do. Probably just show the games when they're ready. I think the days of every single publisher having this big giant showcase are probably over. I think for the platform holders, though, you still do need that showcase. Whether it's the big state of plays that Sony will do, not the smaller ones, but like the really big showcases, or it's the Nintendo Directs, or it's Xbox having an E3, but they need more than just an E3. I've talked about that a lot. They need more than one show per year. The platform holders, I think it's still important to have those big showcases because you're selling a platform, right? And you're getting your audience super hyped for like, what's this platform offering you? Like, what's the games that are exclusive that we're driving to this ecosystem? Whereas if you're a third party, you know, your games for the most part are everywhere, right? They're on every platform, they're wherever. So you don't need to get people hyped for a platform. So my guess, Miles, if you're a third party, just show it whenever you can to get a lot of attention. If you're a first party, you still need to have big showcases. Not necessarily specifically at E3, but, you know, you still need that big show. Casual Noob Gamer, since we know Elden Ring sales numbers in US and Pokemon Arceus numbers, can we estimate a ballpark for Horizon sales numbers? The rumor is 1 million, if you're talking about NPD. The rumor is Horizon did right around 1 million in the US. Casual Gamer, greetings. Hope you're doing well. I am doing well, Casual Gamer. Thank you. My question for you today is, do you think it's possible that the shortages will end in holiday 2023 and we will see PS5, Series X on store shelves, or is it 2024? Man, what a great question. It's definitely not getting fixed this year. I mean, some of these PS5 numbers that are coming out are shocking how bad they are. Shocking. I mean, we're talking this thing selling like in some markets like Spain. I mean, I think it was last week it sold less than 100 units or something insane like that, if I'm remembering right. I thought I saw it was 70-something units or something. I mean, that is like freaking shocking. So it ain't fixed this year. There ain't no chance. Even if things get a little bit better, they ain't going to be fixed. Best case scenario is sometime next year, and who knows, it could even go longer. Who knows? But yeah, Casual Gamer, at the very least, you ain't seeing that fixed at all this year. Maybe they start to get better next year, but we'll have to see. Tim W. asking if I'm going to pick up The Quarry. If it reviews well, I will. And what did I think of Until Dawn? I loved it. I loved Until Dawn. Super underrated game. I think I got the Platinum Trophy on Until Dawn. Love that game. And yeah, I agree with Brock's comment here. I love supermassive games like Until Dawn and The Dark Pictures, but I was shocked they're selling The Quarry for $70. Their games have been $30 to $40 at launch. Yeah, that was shocking to me. I booted up the PlayStation Store and saw $70, and I was like, for a supermassive game? Good luck to them is all I'll say. I hope it does well at that price point. I really do. But, I mean, 70 for that seems like not good. JCat. Hi, everyone. What's up, JCat? Great to see you, JCat. Thanks for being in chat. Thanks for helping moderate the channel. You're amazing. Batman Forever. Do you think the success of Elden Ring will mark the end of the debate/excuse that publishers make to say single-player games aren't profitable? With its success, could we see pubs double down on single-player? Like I said, Batman, single-player is definitely not dead, but you need a really good game. Keep in mind, this game got a ridiculous reviews, and you also need a lot of content. Like we were just talking about with The Quarry. That game's probably going to be 10 hours or less. I hope it's more, but looking at Until Dawn and their other games, maybe your best bet's like 15 hours. The reality is it's hard in this marketplace nowadays to sell a lot of that kind of volume for that type of game. Single-player games aren't dead, not by any means, but you need either a really good license that you're working off of, like Spider-Man or Star Wars or something like that, or you need a lot of freaking content. like we see with stuff like Horizon and Elden Ring and that kind of stuff. So I think single players are here to stay forever, but it's got to be good, and you got to have a lot of content. You want saying hi, Benji? What's up? Randy, Benji, which game do you think will come out first, Avowed or Contraband? And which one will bring in more Game Pass subs and why? I actually don't know a whole lot about Contraband's internal workings. Someone like Jez knows a lot more what's going on with that game. My guess is Avowed will be first. I know Contraband's been in development for a long time, but there were some rumors that they were missing development milestones. I'm going to guess Avowed is first, and which will bring in more subs. Right now, I'm going to say Avowed just because it's a big, giant RPG, and I think that will attract a lot of people. It also looks like it's going to be like semi-open world, which a lot of people will like. Contraband, though, has a big multiplayer and co-op focus. So if Contraband's really, really good, these multiplayer games, you never know, right? They could be like freaking amazing and bring in a giant audience, or they could be something like the Avengers that like bombs, right? So if Contraband's really good and people love that co-op stuff, then that could be bigger. But if, considering how little we know about each one, if I was just to guess, I'd say Avowed. But you never know. We've barely seen anything on either one of these games. Sounds PP7, what do you make of the new GT7 update nerfing credits? Will this backfire on Sony and Polyphony Digital? Jeez, can't say that. And should there be cause for concern on how their upcoming live service games will handle MTX? I can't comment on this too much because I've seen some people talking about it, but I haven't done a ton of research on it. I own Gran Turismo 7, but I haven't even started it yet because I platinumed Horizon Forbidden West and went straight into Elden Ring. And as you guys know, those are both ginormous games. So I've had no time for anything else but Horizon and Elden Ring, but I'm going to start Gran Turismo soon because that's a game I can play on the side and do races. So I'll probably start that sometime next week. I know there's a lot of backlash right now about prices on GT7's microtransactions. I just haven't done enough research, Silence, to have like a definitive viewpoint on it. So I'm sorry about that. Big Nabs, keep up the good work. Never let toxic Twitter get you down. Well, thank you so much, Big Nabs. You know, here's one thing I can say. I say it all the time. I'm really lucky in that, like, the vast majority of people that engage with me on Twitter or interact with me or even here in this YouTube live chat, like, 99% of feedback I get is, like, super positive. So Twitter doesn't really bring me down much anymore. When I very first started, mean comments would like affect me and like hurt my feelings. But I'll be honest, Big Nabs nowadays, it doesn't. The only thing it'll get me sometimes is annoyed, and I'll like delete a tweet. Like I did that Xbox one because I just didn't want any more replies to it. I'm like, this is annoying. Everyone yelling at me and misunderstanding what I'm saying. So like something like that, I'll just delete the tweet because I'm just like, I don't want to get these replies. Like I don't want to read it. But like a random person being mean or anything like that, I don't really care. Because the positives like so outweigh the negatives. Like in this chat, I think we had like one person randomly being mean, but look at how many nice comments there are. I know not all creators and people online are as lucky as I am in regards to that. So I'm for sure for some other people, it's a lot more of a struggle when they're constantly getting mean comments. Don't get me wrong, I get mean comments every day, but like I'll get one mean comment for every like 100 positives. So my takeaway is definitely that the one mean comment doesn't mean much, you know? Some people hyper focus on the negative ones, but to me, it probably makes sense because I'm such a data driven person. Now that I think about this, some people, you know, if data isn't something they focus on, they probably emotionally feel a hardcore response to something. But me, since I'm like so data focused, like I never thought about it until just now, but there's my data brain working, being like, 100 positives to 1 negative must mean that the positive outweighs the negative, you know? So thanks, Big Nabs. I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to take like 2 more and I got to bounce. Because I got to go to work. Let me really quick scroll down to the bottom, see if I missed anything late, any super chats or anything like that. No missed super chats. All right, let me just pick out 1 or 2 more here. I'm sorry, guys, that I can't get to more, but I got to go to work. Justin Tannehill is a fun one. What do you predict will be the biggest game of 2023? Well, that's hard to say because we know so little about 2023, but here's what's interesting. We can actually talk a little bit about this. We know it's not going to be Call of Duty, which is a really interesting thing because every year it's Call of Duty, right? Like literally, except for like Grand Theft Auto years, outside of GTA, it's freaking Call of Duty. So 2023 is going to be really interesting because that's the first year in many, many years we do not have a new Call of Duty game entering the market. That one has been delayed, we found out. So that is an interesting question. For the first time, really, a lot of other games are going to have an opportunity. Here's the thing. Do we even know almost anything in the 23 lineup right now? I mean, if we're talking about the US, if Spider-Man 2 is 2023, that actually has a legit shot. I mean, Spider-Man 1 was gigantic. So Spidey, even worldwide, Spidey has potential. I would say if Breath of the Wild 2 is delayed, which we have literally no idea right now if that game's still this year or not, like who knows. If that was to get pushed to next year, Breath of the Wild would have a strong shot at it. Keep in mind the original sold over 20 million units, and I suspect the sequel will do the same and probably sell even faster out the gate because the Switch install base is so big. So, Breath of the Wild 2 has a shot if it's next year, right? If it's this year, that's going to affect things. But, I don't think there's going to be a new Battlefield game. And even if there was, the last one was such a disaster that who knows. Yeah, that's 2 off the top of my head, but so much of that is unknown what's coming out next year. Like, who freaking knows? That's 2 front runners for me, though. Would be Spidey and Zelda if they're next year. That's 2 that stand out. Abdul, Colin Moriarty and many people mentioned Sony had a deal with From Software for 3 games and Bloodborne on PS4 was one of them. I am sorry to say this because Colin has actually been really nice to me. I know a lot of people don't like Colin, and a lot of people do. I'm not trying to say nobody likes Colin. I'm just saying he's been very nice to me. I believe he probably did get that info from somewhere, but I don't think it's real. Because Bloodborne came out in 2000 and, 14? And there hasn't been another game since. It would have happened if there was a contract. 2015. So that was 7 years ago. And there's never been another one. So there definitely is not a contract. They wouldn't have released multiple games since then if there was, right? There wouldn't have been a multi-platform Sekiro and a multi-platform Elden Ring and a multi-platform Armored Core that's coming. And Dark Souls 3, like they would have pumped those games out. So no, there could be more games coming, like I said, not going to rule that out, but, there was no contract back then for 3 games, or if it was like the loosest structured contract of all time because they haven't made a single exclusive since then and a lot of multi-platform games. But I can tell you as someone, there's a reason why I don't do a lot of this insider stuff anymore. The amount of fake stuff that gets spread around will shock you. So, even from reliable sources. A huge case in point is, I'm assuming, since I've never heard any update on this, what I heard about Silent Hill, right? I talked on this a long time ago that I had gotten some info about Silent Hill projects. And it's been a long time now, and after the deadlines when those were supposed to be revealed. and to show you how crazy some of this stuff can get about people that try to be insiders, which is why I don't try and do it anymore. I literally verified that this was a PlayStation employee. And I'm not telling you it was a PlayStation exclusive, so relax. I'm telling you I got this information from a PlayStation employee. And either that person was impersonating a PlayStation employee in a very big way, or a PlayStation employee lied to me. So even from reliable sources, stuff happens. So, yeah. All right, I'm going to do one more. And I got to go. I wish I could do more. Kellegrim says, for the record, I don't think Benji is a loser. I think he's cool. Well, Kellegrim, I appreciate that. I'm pretty self-depreciating. I always think the worst about myself. But I mean, I wish I was in a better spot in life than I am. Like I said, my audience saved my life. It's hard to feel pretty like you're like winning at life whenever you're in your early 30s still, but 30s, and I work alongside a bunch of like 19 and 18 and 17-year-olds in high school and college, and I'm like the oldest guy doing the job I do, or one of. Doesn't feel great. I wish things were going better, but, I can't complain. I have a lot of stuff to be happy about too, right? So, it ain't the end of the world. I just wish I was more successful than I am. Not like rich, but like I wish I was doing something. All right. One more, though. That's not a question. One more question. Oh, man, a lot of nice comments. Sorry, I didn't see that. A lot of people saying, Bearded Constantly, you're amazing, dude. Keep it up. Split End, no, you're far from a loser. But thank you, guys. You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. Oh, Hammersley Ford wasn't the one that was saying that I was damage controlling. It was someone else. Yeah, I don't get that comment. Oh, J-Cat, someone else said that. I deleted it. Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely wasn't. All right, one more from the bottom. Let me see, one more. Big Low, Benji-Sales, what do you think of Metacritic 2021 Publisher of the Year being Microsoft/Xbox? Yeah, dude, I can, this does not, shock me. Last year they had some great games. We were talking about that. I loved Forza Horizon 5. I freaking loved Halo Infinite. The problems with Halo Infinite started mounting post-release, not really at launch, right? The main issue for Halo has just been no freaking content. Like, my goodness. You have a live service game, and we're still in Season 1. And this came out in November. Like, whoo! That is a tough spot to put your game. And I understand why it had to be done for Halo Infinite to a degree. I'm not making excuses for them, but I'm saying the reasoning they stated was that they weren't going to do crunch at the studio and that they wanted to work on fixing other stuff before they jumped into Season 2. But, like, bro, it's a service game, a free-to-play service game, and you're going to go November, December, January, February, March, April, essentially half a year before you hit Season 2? Like, you are setting your game up to fail doing that. Like, I don't know what the answer was there. Like, I don't know. I'm not in charge of running any of these companies. I don't know what the right decision would have been. But, like, oof, that's a tough spot to put your service game in. Here you go. No Season 2 for 6 months. All right. Okay. So, but that was really after launch. Like, at launch, a lot of people loved the campaign, myself included. The multiplayer at first, whenever you're working through that first season and, all these maps are fresh and new to you, you're not just playing on the same few maps for months and months on end. The multiplayer felt amazing and great. So, it makes sense it reviewed high. Forza Horizon 5 is absolutely phenomenal, so it makes sense it reviewed high. Flight Simulator was great. Psychonauts 2 was great. So, like, what we were talking about earlier, like, Microsoft's been making some great games The problem for Microsoft that they really need to address, and I think they will in the future, but they got to get there, is these huge gaps that they have, right? They'll release a lot of stuff that's cool, but keep in mind, look at how short that window was. They had nothing essentially for the first, like, what was it, like 6 or 7 months of the year last year. And then finally towards the end of the year, you know, you got Psychonauts in August, then you got Forza Horizon 5 in November, and you got Halo Infinite multiplayer in November, and Halo Infinite campaign in December. Like, it all came together in the last few months. The problem for Microsoft that they got to get fixed are these huge gaps where you're going like over half a year with no new first party games. Like, they just got it. The quality is getting there where their games are mostly very good, but they need a higher cadence, right? Those games need to be coming more often than they do. So that would be my thoughts on that. But shout out to Microsoft. They did have some awesome games last year. All right, everyone, I'm going to bounce. I'm headed out. Thank you for an awesome chat. For all the questions that I missed, I really apologize. I'm really sorry. Save your question. We'll be back next week. You can ask that question in chat next week, and I will try to get to it. Like the video if you haven't already. It helps the YouTube algorithm, helps people find my channel. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Follow me on Twitter. Odds are all of you do here, but if you don't, follow me on Twitter. I'm Benji-Sales on Twitter. Stay safe, everyone. Play some games. I'll see you either on Twitter or in the next chat. And for those of you that are going to be watching the PlayStation State of Play on Hogwarts Legacy, hope you have fun. And have an amazing